Mark Emery once wrote, "I am so ready for the revolution against all this woke shit." Guilt-tripping children over history is heinous and shows a real hatred toward white children. All teachers in the BC system are captured by the pride ideology, embrace all the indigenous hoaxes, believe the white population are settlers perpetuating colonialism. Just stop this tranny grooming shit right now at CBC Kids. You are pushing mutilation, hormone therapy, sexualization, chemical castration, and messing with children's brains. Those sentences are a perfect fossil of a decaying way of thinking, a whole worldview petrified mid-scream. I read them aloud once, and they sounded like static, a dozen fears crashing into each other and calling it revelation. It's a spell of stupidity cast in the syntax of rebellion, a tantrum pretending to be revolution. And so I decided, if we are to talk about woke and stupid, let's talk about them honestly, without euphemism, without politeness, without the tired cowardice that hides behind words like balance and both sides. Woke means awake. It means refusing the luxury of blindness. It means seeing how pain repeats through systems, colonial, patriarchal, economic, and daring to stop the repetition. To be woke is to use empathy as intelligence. It is the discipline of connecting dots that the comfortable insist are unrelated. Stupid, on the other hand, is not mere ignorance. Ignorance is a blank page waiting for ink. Stupidity is when the page is on fire and someone insists it's light. Stupidity is willful sleep. It is the decision to find comfort in confusion because clarity demands responsibility. And nothing terrifies the mediocre soul more than responsibility. The quarrel of our time is not between left and right. It's between woke and stupid. Between those who want to understand the world and those who only want to feel righteous inside it. Between learners and scolders, empathy and ego, courage and cowardice. Mark's outburst, his talk of woke indoctrination, of hoaxes, of chemical castration, is not unique. It is the chorus of an age that has grown addicted to outrage because outrage feels like knowledge. To these people, complexity is an insult. They cannot endure a world that won't fit on a bumper sticker. So they collapse it into slogans and call that collapse common sense. They shout woke the way children shout monster when the light reveals a coat on a chair. The coat was never the danger, the fear was. What they call woke is nothing more than the moral awareness of others. They hate it because it exposes them. When they sneer at woke teachers, what they really despise is pedagogy itself, the idea that children might grow to think beyond their parents' anxieties. When they mock woke history, what they fear is the extinction of their innocence, the loss of a fantasy where they were always the heroes. When they hiss about woke medicine, what they cannot tolerate is science that listens to the patient instead of the preacher. Stupidity dresses itself as rebellion now. It steals the costume of dissent. Once rebellion meant confronting power. Now, to the self-proclaimed anti-woke, rebellion means defending every old hierarchy from examination. They mistake their nostalgia for courage. They are the establishment cosplaying as insurgents. Let us name the pattern. Projection. They accuse others of indoctrination while insisting on their own dogma. Simplification. They reduce vast histories to cartoons, hoaxes, groomers, traitors. Inversion. They claim persecution when asked to learn. Dehumanization. They replace individuals with symbols that justify cruelty. Profit. Outrage monetized, clicks, donations, interviews, the dopamine of digital applause. Mark is merely a symptom of this sickness, the influencer of grievance. He no longer grows plants. He cultivates resentment. The real difference between woke and stupid is how each handles discomfort. The woke person feels the sting of new information and stays still long enough to learn from it. The stupid person feels the sting and rushes to blame whoever delivered it. For the woke, pain is data. For the stupid, pain is conspiracy. When history reminds us of the graves under our feet, the woke mourn and vow repair. The stupid shout hoax, because grief is work and work is for the living. When medicine learns that gender and biology are not the same map, the woke study, adjust, refine. The stupid howl mutilation, because study requires humility, and humility is hard. When children are taught empathy across color lines, the woke see a chance for a gentler generation. The stupid cry hatred of white children because they can't imagine equality that doesn't feel like loss. Stupidity is not genetic. It is cultivated. It grows in the soil of certainty and is watered by fear. Every society has to decide whether it will invest in education, the slow cultivation of waking minds, or invest in spectacle, the quick harvest of sleeping ones. The anti-woke choose spectacle. They farm outrage because outrage germinates overnight, but outrage is a crop that poisons its farmers. You can live on fury for a while, but it rots the intellect. Soon you forget the difference between evidence and anecdote, between compassion and cowardice. You begin to mistake cruelty for honesty. You begin to believe that empathy is manipulation, and that the people who remind you of suffering are the real oppressors. That is where stupidity becomes political theology. I call it a theology because it requires faith without proof. Anti-wokeism promises salvation through denial. Deny racism, deny patriarchy, deny transexistence, deny indigenous trauma, and you shall be clean again. It is the modern baptism in the waters of amnesia. But awareness cannot be unlearned. Once the light hits the retina, blindness becomes a choice. And that is why they rage. Not because they are victims of indoctrination, but because they are addicts in withdrawal from the narcotic of unchallenged innocence. They say, woke people think they're better than everyone. No, we just think better than before. That's what learning does. And it doesn't make you superior. It makes you responsible. And responsibility is heavier than privilege, which is why so many drop it the moment it burns their hands. Being woke is not a personality. It's an ongoing act of hygiene, washing off the propaganda we were all born with. Being stupid is refusing the soap and calling the dirt tradition. I do not use stupid as an insult, but as diagnosis. It is the deliberate refusal to connect cause and effect. It's the man who screams about freedom while demanding censorship. It's the woman who condemns socialism while cashing her public pension check. It's the pundit who claims to defend children while voting against feeding them. Marx's rhetoric about chemical castration is this same stupidity, a technical term yanked from context, turned into a horror story to keep his followers trembling. He cannot explain puberty blockers, but he can pronounce them evil. That's the trick. Ignorance as entertainment. Woke versus stupid is not a class war or a culture war. It is a war over the definition of reality. The woke insist that reality includes other people's pain. The stupid insist that reality ends at the edge of their comfort. I will not soften that distinction. If you recoil from it, good. Discomfort is the tuition for clarity. To be woke is to believe that empathy is a form of knowledge. To be stupid is to believe that empathy is propaganda. This is the whole argument compressed to its moral core. When someone like Mark calls pride ideology a capture of schools, he reveals how small his concept of education has become. He cannot imagine that learning about queer lives might make a child safer, kinder, or more competent at understanding complexity. He thinks of education as indoctrination because indoctrination is the only kind of teaching he remembers. That's the tragedy of a man who once fought for freedom. He never learned what freedom is for. The stupid cling to the myth of purity. They want history without guilt, medicine without ambiguity, society without change. They dream of a static world where they never have to say we were wrong. But the price of that dream is perpetual cruelty because someone else always pays for your refusal to grow. To be woke is to accept contamination, that your comfort was built on someone else's suffering, that your innocence was subsidized by exploitation, that your myths require maintenance by silence. Woke people break that silence, and in doing so, they become the most dangerous citizens a stagnant society can face. This is why the anti-woke spend so much energy on ridicule. Mockery is the armor of the frightened. They call it humor. It's really camouflage. They hide behind jokes about pronouns, about safe spaces, about woke snowflakes, because ridicule feels powerful when you are scared. But ridicule is a confession. I don't understand this, so I will pretend not to care. The more they mock, the clearer the hierarchy becomes. The woke speak of liberation. The stupid make memes. Stupidity always thinks it's winning because laughter is loud, but history does not count decibels. It counts consequences. When the laughter fades, the records remain. Who fought for inclusion and who fought against it? A century from now, today's anti-woke crusaders will be studied the way we now study the pamphleteers against women's suffrage. Curiosities of fear dressed as moral conviction. Woke versus stupid is therefore not a culture war. It's a species test. Can we evolve past the instinct to hate what challenges us? Can we recognize that intelligence is not knowing everything, but refusing to stop learning? If we fail that test, stupidity will write our epitaphs and call them patriotic. Stupidity does not arrive by accident. It is cultivated. Someone plants it, waters it with fear, and calls the crop common sense. There is a whole industry built on it now. Every headline that begins with outrage as, every talk show that asks whether children are being indoctrinated, every algorithm that promotes the angriest comment, it's all fertilizer. The business model of modern media is not truth, it's agitation. The longer you're angry, the longer you stay. And the longer you stay, the more ads you see. Rage has become a subscription service. Anti-woke thinking thrives in that ecosystem because it's simple. It gives you one villain at a time. Today it's teachers. Tomorrow, trans kids. Next week, historians. You don't have to learn, you just have to hate efficiently. That is the first feature of stupidity. It is economical. Understanding takes energy. Hatred is renewable. The second feature, stupidity offers belonging. Every time you post an angry slogan, you're handed a tribe. The badge is resentment. The password is woke. Say it with enough sneer and you're admitted to the fellowship of the perpetually wronged. They will tell you that you are brave for resisting the mob, yet your entire community exists because you joined one. It's an irony so thick it could choke a democracy. Third, stupidity eroticizes certainty. It tells you that doubt is weakness, that curiosity is betrayal. So you start to feel powerful only when you are furious, and small whenever you are thoughtful. It's emotional addiction disguised as conviction. This is why so many people who once called themselves libertarian, rebels against control, slide effortlessly into authoritarian rhetoric. They are not addicted to freedom. They are addicted to the thrill of opposition. Once the old enemy disappears, they'll invent a new one. Woke, trans, feminist, indigenous, any group will do as long as it can be blamed for the ache of meaninglessness. There is a machinery to all this. Step 1. Manufacture confusion. Flood the discourse with contradictory stories until the average person gives up on verifying any of them. Step 2. Offer certainty. Introduce a simple narrative. Everything bad comes from them. Them, the teachers, the migrants, the pronoun people. Step 3. Monetize despair. Sell books, streams, and merch promising to fight back against woke tyranny. You don't have to win, you just have to keep the battle going. Step 4. Rewrite the moral dictionary. Call empathy virtue signaling. Call equality special treatment. Call bigotry free speech. Call learning indoctrination. Step 5. Celebrate ignorance as authenticity. The less you know, the more real you seem. Facts are elitist, feelings are democratic. Thus, the stupid gain the illusion of nobility. This machine has been humming for decades, but the volume has reached an apocalyptic pitch. The anti-woke revolution that Mark and others imagine is not a march toward liberty. It's a riot against reflection. Its banners read, "We are tired of thinking." I sometimes imagine stupidity as a deity with endless devotees. Its temples are the comment sections, its hymns are the sound bites, its priests are the pundits who promise revelation for a small monthly fee, and its sacrament is projection. Because here is the cruel symmetry. Every accusation made by the stupid is a confession. They scream indoctrination while indoctrinating their own followers. They cry division while preaching segregation. They howl censorship while demanding teachers be fired for teaching facts. They insist they are protecting children while shielding them from knowledge. The mirror terrifies them, so they smash it and blame the shards for bleeding. To understand this pathology, you must understand fear of irrelevance. When the world moves forward, those who once dominated its narrative feel smaller. Instead of learning new languages of empathy, they shout their old slogans louder. They call it defending tradition. It is actually a midlife crisis of civilization. Every step humanity takes toward inclusion makes the exclusionists feel endangered. To them, equality is apocalypse. They see justice not as correction but as revenge. And so they preach perpetual innocence. The myth that to acknowledge wrongdoing is to be annihilated by guilt. This is the emotional physics behind the anti-woke hysteria. They equate awareness with humiliation, apology with extinction. They do not understand that admitting harm is not self-destruction. It is self-respect. The stupid talk endlessly about freedom but cannot define it. To them, freedom means never being contradicted. It means the right to remain ignorant without consequence. That's not freedom, that's infancy. And infancy is only cute when it's temporary. True freedom is inseparable from understanding. You cannot be free inside a delusion. To live in lies is to live in a cage built from your own refusal to know. The anti-woke like to quote, "Facts don't care about your feelings." Fine, then care about facts. The facts of colonial history, the facts of gender medicine, the facts of climate collapse, of inequality, of systemic harm. But no, they only mean their feelings don't count. Everyone else's feelings are lies. It's projection again, the reflex of the self-deceived. When I say stupid, I mean that deliberate inversion of cause and effect. They call it brave to stand against woke mobs. But what are they actually standing for? For comfort? For nostalgia? For the right never to evolve? It's a rebellion against adulthood, and it is contagious. Each unexamined fear becomes a meme, each meme a movement, each movement a market. We need to be honest about how seductive stupidity is. It flatters the ego. It says, you already know everything worth knowing. It makes ignorance feel like purity, prejudice feel like pride. No wonder people defend it like religion. But the bill always comes due. Stupidity makes civilizations brittle. It corrodes empathy, erodes trust, and turns politics into theater. Every empire that refused to learn collapsed under the weight of its own certainty. Rome, Britain, America, each chapter rhymes. That is why this fight matters. Not because woke is a fashion, but because stupidity is fatal. Species die of it. The anatomy of stupidity ends with a paradox. It thinks it is awake. That's why the conversation between woke and stupid is so hard. The stupid believe they are the enlightened ones, bravely piercing the illusion. They think they've swallowed the red pill. In truth, they are choking on it. They say, wake up, sheeple. And it's almost tragic. The shepherd warning the flock away from the pasture of knowledge. Awakening is not a one-time event. It's a practice. The woke person keeps waking, keeps questioning, keeps dismantling the lies of comfort. The stupid hit snooze every generation. So here we stand. On one side, those who treat awareness as duty. On the other, those who treat it as disease. This is not an argument that can be resolved with civility, because it's not about policy. It's about epistemology. It's about whether truth matters more than ego. The queen of antinatalism, me, the voice that believes in reducing harm even when it means reducing ourselves, looks at this species and sees the same fork that every age faces. Wake up or die stupid. I know which side I'm on. I know which side history always honors. The woke are mocked in their own time and quoted in the next. The stupid are loud in their own time and forgotten in the next. That is the law of moral evolution. Wokeness is not a mood. It is an infrastructure of perception. It begins with a single moral question. Who is hurt and how can I know it? And then it builds an entire network of habits designed to keep that question alive. A woke mind is not content with pity. It wants comprehension. It wants to know the systems, the incentives, the invisible hands that make cruelty look ordinary. That is intelligence at its purest. Pattern recognition married to compassion. The anti-woke call this exhausting. They are right. It is exhausting to stay awake. It's easier to let nostalgia drive and call that peace. But rest and rot are different things. A society that refuses awareness sleeps itself into entropy. To understand wokeness, picture a brain with more synapses. Each connection represents another life, another circumstance, another possibility of suffering. The more connections, the more empathy. The more empathy, the higher the resolution of reality. That's why wokeness and science are siblings. Both demand evidence, both revise themselves, both threaten the priesthood of certainty. Wokeness is applied curiosity. It doesn't just collect facts. It asks what those facts mean for the powerless. It's sociology turned inward, ethics turned outward, philosophy translated into policy. Those who sneer at it claim it's a cult. They mistake organization for orthodoxy. A cathedral of conscience frightens them because it has no central altar, just millions of candles lit by individual acts of recognition. In practice, wokeness operates through three engines. Interrogation. Every claim of normality must prove it harms no one. Revision. When harm is shown, the system must adapt. Expansion. The circle of moral concern keeps widening until it includes even the future itself. That last step terrifies the stupid most of all. To include the unborn, the non-human, the ecological means to limit our own indulgence. It demands the kind of foresight that consumer culture treats as heresy. No wonder they call it radical. It's literally forward-thinking. The woke person's education never ends. They read the footnotes of civilization and find the names crossed out by victors. They learn that comfort is not evidence of goodness. They practice the art of hesitation, the moment before judgment when empathy can still intervene. That moment is where intelligence lives. A mind that hesitates can calculate. A mind that reacts can only repeat. The stupid call this weakness because they mistake speed for strength. They forget that the fastest reflex of all is fear. Every major moral advance in human history was once mocked as too sensitive. Abolition, suffrage, civil rights, gay marriage, animal welfare, all framed as sentimental overreach until the evidence became undeniable. Wokeness is simply that same engine continuing to run. It is the immune system of civilization, irritation as a sign of healing. To be woke is to recognize that ignorance reproduces harm as reliably as genes reproduce life. It is to commit to the slow extinction of cruelty. And yes, that threatens those who have built their identities on being the beneficiaries of cruelty's byproducts. The architecture of wokeness has pillars. 1. Empirical empathy. Not tears without data, but data interpreted through empathy. The willingness to say statistics are people in disguise. 2. Intersectional reasoning. The understanding that oppression does not occur in isolation. Race, gender, class, disability, species, all overlap like tectonic plates. Ignorance of one makes the whole map inaccurate. 3. Accountability. Awareness without action is voyeurism. The woke insist that knowing obliges doing. 4. Evolutionary humility. The certainty that what seems progressive today will look barbaric tomorrow. Therefore, the task is endless. That last one is the hardest. It forbids complacency, even among the enlightened. It whispers, "You too will be corrected." The stupid cannot bear that sound. It reminds them that growth and guilt share a border. To live woke is to make peace with discomfort. It's to see every privilege as a loan from history with interest accruing. It's to know that every system, capitalism, patriarchy, nationalism, offers rewards in exchange for blindness. The woke refuse the bargain, and so they are hated, because the refusal to lie politely is the most unforgivable sin in any polite society. The anti-woke imagine intelligence as a fixed trait: IQ, degree, paycheck. Wokeness redefines it as moral sensitivity, the capacity to process complexity without cruelty. That is the intelligence evolution truly selects for. Species that cooperate survive, species that hoard die alone. This is why wokeness feels inevitable. It's not a fad, it's a cognitive adaptation. The brain itself is evolving toward broader empathy because survival now depends on cooperation, not conquest. Stupidity, by contrast, is devolution, an ancient reflex of tribal fear running on algorithms that reward spite. The architecture of wokeness, therefore, demands maintenance. Every generation must rebuild it from the ruins of the last. When empathy falters, atrocities return. When curiosity stalls, superstition rises. When the loud insist that kindness is weakness, cruelty becomes patriotic again. The woke keep the lights on. They mop up the blood. They write the next curriculum. They invent the next cure. And still they are called tyrants by those who mistake accountability for oppression. I say to them, you call us delicate because we can feel. You call yourselves strong because you cannot. But numbness is not strength. It's nerve damage. A civilization that cannot feel the pain it causes is already dying of sepsis. The work of wokeness is to repair the nerves of the world, to connect sensation to action, awareness to response. It is not glamorous. It will not trend forever. But it is the only way a thinking species survives its own power. You can sneer at it, you can fight it, but you cannot uninvent it. Once a conscience enlarges, it doesn't shrink back. The architecture stands even when the builders are mocked. History is not a story we inherit. It is a test we keep failing. Every generation is handed the same essay question in different handwriting. Now that you know better, what will you do with it? The woke answer with work. The stupid answer with denial. Denial is easy. It promises continuity. It whispers that nothing truly needs to change, that the pain of others is exaggerated, that progress is a scam. It sells nostalgia in bulk. And nostalgia, once swallowed, numbs the brain like morphine. The patient feels righteous even as the rot spreads. Awareness, by contrast, is surgery without anesthesia. It hurts because it's healing. The woke know this and accept the pain as tuition. They would rather be scarred by truth than embalmed in comfort. That is the final divide. The woke repair, the stupid repeat. We live now in the age of consequences. The oceans are speaking in floodwater, the forests in smoke, the dispossessed in hunger. Every crisis is a mirror showing us exactly what deliberate ignorance costs. The anti-woke say empathy is weakness, but the planet itself is issuing the exam, and empathy is the only subject on the test. Stupidity cannot solve what it created. You cannot shout a wildfire into submission or tweet a glacier back into ice. You cannot ban book your way out of extinction. Yet that is precisely what the stupid attempt. Censorship as climate policy, denial as economy, mockery as faith. It's performance art for a burning world. I have watched their debates, each one a theater of deflection. They speak of freedom while demanding conformity, of reason while burning textbooks, of morality while laughing at the vulnerable. They confuse volume with validity, cruelty with candor, fatigue with proof. They think outrage is a worldview. But outrage without comprehension is just noise in a jar. The stupid have always been loud. The woke have always been patient. Patience is not passivity. It is the quiet strength of those who build while others sneer. To be woke now is to build arc after arc while the scoffers sell tickets to the flood. It is to design futures that may not include us but will at least include mercy. It is to believe that intelligence is measured not by what we can exploit, but by what we can protect. The stupid call this nihilism or tyranny or both, because they cannot imagine purpose without domination. They see cooperation as slavery and compassion as propaganda. They call education indoctrination, because they know how easily they themselves can be indoctrinated. Their projections have become their prophets. But the age of consequences will not negotiate with feelings. Reality is immune to denial. The sea doesn't care if you call it woke. The virus doesn't care if you vote against it. Physics is the most unforgiving activist of all. In this age, stupidity is not merely embarrassing, it's lethal. And awareness, far from being optional, is survival instinct dressed in philosophy. I do not promise that wokeness will save us. I promise only that without it, we have already failed. Awareness is not utopia. It is the minimum requirement for a functioning conscience. Without it, every slogan rots into cruelty and every flag hides a body. So I choose the side of the awake. I choose the hard, endless labor of understanding. I choose to know, even when knowing burns. Because ignorance always burns worse. Let the stupid mock the word woke until it loses all fashion. When they are gone, the work will remain. The slow rethreading of empathy through the torn fabric of civilization. Call it progress, call it penance, call it simply staying alive. Whatever the name, it is the only revolution worth finishing. This is my verdict and my vow. The future belongs to those who refuse to stay asleep. Every step toward awareness is an act of rescue. Every lesson learned is a life preserved. And every time we choose to see rather than sneer, the species earns another day. So wake up, stay woke, think. It's the most radical act left.
Oh, no, 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 no,